to Let's Talk Discussions of Life, Love, and Health. Um, Welcome, everybody. Hope everybody's having a happy 2020 New Year and getting ready for the changes that are about to take place. So, thank you for all being a part of this. See, I got my incense and my tea getting us ready for today's conversation and topic. Again, for those who do not know me, I am Asha Sims. I am a holistic wellness practitioner, and within that is a lot of duties that I'm responsible for, from being a licensed counselor, a wellness coach, sensual arts educator, um, an energy worker. And so a lot of these Let's Talk discussions are basically about different topics that we encounter in the community that we may have questions about or needing information in regards to help us with our overall healing and everything. So today I'm very excited to have a guest on. This young lady is a friend. She's a teacher, one of my teachers. Excuse me, my tea right here. And so we're going to have some very lively, engaging conversations. So if anyone is wanting to be a part of the conversation or have any dialogue that they, want to share later on, then I will post the link in the group or on the page so that you guys can tap in at any point in time if you wish to have something to say. And I'll just put that link up actually so you guys can see. If anybody wants to comment while they're on Facebook, come in live, then all you have to do is go to this link and we can actually bring you in case you want to actually have some engagement in the conversations besides just the comments and everything. So today's conversation is about what is Tantra. And I really wanted to have a conversation about this topic. This is also a topic that, with me doing the work I do in the counseling field and working with couples, and not just couples, but different women dealing with issues with their sacral chakra. Of course, that is your center for creation and procreativity and your pleasure center, that a lot of us are dealing with blockages in this area. When I say blockages, that could mean trauma, that could mean infertility issues from hurt, pain, miscarriages. Men are dealing with issues in this area with relationships, erectile dysfunction, and all kinds of health issues. And a lot of it comes from having some blockages in that area that is keeping us from really allowing energy to flow, and understanding that Tantra is about life force energy. And our sexual energy is basically that. The only way we can come into existence, is through sexual energy. And in our culture, we have, due to a lot of our programming, whether it's religion or doctrines or family views, many of us have received the wrong programming when it comes to sexual energy. And we see it as something negative, or due to early on traumas. A lot of the sexual traumas that we're dealing with in our society is causing blockages early on, sometimes even in the womb. So before I get into further details in regards to that, I'm going to bring Riziki. First, I have to say, I don't know if y'all can see my t-shirt today, but I always try to market a t-shirt. So today's t-shirt, See Her Evolve, that's from Miss Karen Bonner, a nonprofit organization that she has out of Winston-Salem and helping young girls. So I thought this was very good because this is a topic, I'm not going to go into details, but me and Riziki have been talking about this. Is even information that we need to start giving to the young ladies and the younger generation about healthy sexual viewpoints. So I'm going to bring on my sister, Riziki.
Hi.
Hey, Riziki.
How are you?
Glad to see you and glad to start off 2020 with this topic of conversation. So I know a lot of people have questions. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things. We hear a lot about Tantra, but never really have a clear understanding of what it is. And I think also in the Western culture, we get so caught up on Tantra just automatically being something sexual. And it, even though it has a lot to do about sexual energy, I think they're missing the point of when we talk about sex, how we categorize it, how we viewpoint sex to have a certain terminology. So if you want to just give them a brief overview about yourself and tell us, you know, what is Tantra?
Sure. Okay. So peace, family. Thank you for joining. Let's talk, and just big shout out to my big sis and teacher and friend, Asha Sims, as well. I'm really grateful to be here. So real quick, I am Riziki Zafira, and I do consider myself a transformation guide. I am also into health and wellness. Aside from Tantra, I also do astrology readings, Yoni steaming, coaching, motivational speaking. But my path to Tantra started because I needed a solution for myself based off of the belief systems, the programming, the paradigms I was under, as well as the issues of abuse that I had, issues of validation, issues of neglect, so forth and so on. So to talk about what Tantra is, Tantra, the word itself, is a Sanskrit word to me that means weaving light and sound, right? So pretty much the premise of light and sound is creation, which we also know through the act of sex, which utilizes our sexual energy, we can create life. Physical life, a human being, but on other levels, there are other things we are able to create with this life force energy, also known as sexual energy, also known as our creative energy. And just to kind of go a little bit further, so my practice of Tantra has evolved. And my specific curriculum that I'm starting, that I'm opening in April, deals with the term called Sesa, which means transformation. And understanding that, again, energy is neither created or destroyed. It simply transmutes, it transforms, so forth and so on. So my particular system or practices that I've been using plays a very important part in that transformation process of creation. And for me in my walk, that's what I found this word or practices that we know as Tantra to be.
Cool. Another thing that drew me to you also, Riziki, when I took your sacred sexuality course, was because of the negative connotation sometimes of Tantra being all about sex. And in some, I guess to say, in my research, I saw that was just, it was more of a sexual energy, even though I know that's what it's about, but it was a lower vibrational energy. One of the things that I like about, not that we go into titles, but I know I have a lot to do with it, in which you call yourself a shamanic tantra teacher. Yeah. Tell a little bit. And I think because with your teachings, it went more into a spiritual perspective instead of just the physical. Can you explain a little more about your approach and sure, that title and how you approach Tantra and teaching it as well?
Absolutely. So, okay. The reason why I stepped into shamanic Tantra, well, first, let's be clear. Tantra came as a result of principles and ideas and cultural perspectives that has existed from the beginning of time. Okay. So there's three main forms of Tantra, which is yogic. Many people have seen, you know, you're communing with yourself through movement of the body. Then I was also trained under active Tantra, which pretty much incorporates what some people call mystical. I call it shamanic, meaning I am doing work to commune with the forces that exist in nature. Some people call them orishas, some people call them deities, some people call them Netaru, so forth and so on. As well as the active part. So I'm really big on being able to incorporate science into what I do. So when I realized that a lot of tantric schools, we're all about breathing and meditation and yoga, which is fine. But in the program that I started, I definitely wanted to incorporate mental and behavioral health. So I'm so glad for our connection because you definitely helped bring a lot of that to light. But the shamanic part, I realized the benefit of not only just communing with forces in nature, but the herbs that Mother Earth have left for us to utilize. So there has been some instances where table work wasn't just enough. Coaching wasn't just enough. I had to sit people down in plant medicine ceremonies so that we can journey through your body and your subconscious and your programs and your paradigms that you may not be consciously aware of. So shamanic tantra is simply me incorporating those elements of us communing with nature and also utilizing indigenous medicines and practices within my modalities.
Got you. Mm-hmm. So in general, tell us a little bit about how Tantra helps on so many different levels. I know I recommend a lot of couples to go through education about Tantra, as well as individuals, male or females. And I know we do a lot of work with the women in the community on healing, but just tell us some of the overall benefits mentally, physically, and spiritually that Tantra can assist many in their healing journey.
Whew, okay, so
I know that's like an all-day workshop almost.
I'm gonna break it down in 5 categories because this is how I broke down or started creating my system. So number 1, the spirit, right? So understanding that our spirit is a major impact as to the personality traits and the behaviors that we exude in everyday life. Also understanding that our spirit can transmute or transform, or the energy that we're utilizing not only can be used in the act of sex, but also the act of manifesting, the act of, pursuing your goals, so forth and so on. Also, when we start to understand the certain energies that are within us to, let's say, be a better lover, be a better father, be a better mother, be a better entrepreneur, be a better sister, cousin, whatever. All of that has to do with the energy that you carry. So tantric practices definitely help with your spirit, number 1. Number 2 is your belief systems. So a lot of times, based off of what we've been through, we have formulated these belief systems that are either going to propel us in life or keep us stagnated. And I'm the first one to tell you right now, as a practitioner and a teacher, I'm not perfect. Every day I am faced with things trying to program belief systems in me, and every day utilizing these practices to help myself not take on these programmings, right? So changing belief system paradigm shifts, a very, very major breakthrough. Not only our beliefs, but our mind. So understanding that the foundation under what we're thinking. So we have people who have a scarcity mindset and people who have an abundant mindset. So when we understand if we're operating from scarcity or abundance, it makes sense as to why we believe certain things, why we act a certain way, why we've developed certain defense mechanisms. Also, another part, this is number 4, the body. So I've graduated, when I was teaching under Grind Trine, I graduated 2 classes, and one student in particular, she was doing a lot of cellular work, which really helped transform her body. She just noticed like my waist went in, my thighs went in, because a lot of this work is not just about, okay, we're communing with spirit, but we're putting information in your cells. We're putting information in your body that is going to advocate and promote the health of it overall, your organs, your blood, all of that. Last but not least, and this is really the first one, the heart. So when we talk about us being disconnected, and a lot of women and men who have issues in relationships and in sexuality, is because there is either their heart is blocked, closed, or there's a major disconnection from their heart and their reproductive system. So this is why we have a lot of men and women who will engage with people and do a lot of sexually activity, and there be a disconnect between the heart and the genitalia, which is why we're not able to experience the orgasmic bliss that everybody hears about in Tantra. So those are the 5 major areas of benefit: your spirit, your beliefs, your mind, your body, your heart.
And I think that's so key, because even some of the work that when I started working with women in counseling sessions, many people ask, how did I even get to the point of becoming a sensual arts educator and in the art of Tantra. So, and seeing a lot of women having these blockages, that key word, which we don't talk about, is orgasmic. That whole sexual energy of the bliss of an orgasm, and understanding that there are a lot of many women that are engaging in sexual activities, but they're not actually having orgasms. That is a blockage that we don't talk about, because it's not a thing we sit around and say, oh, I'm not having orgasms, because we think everybody is doing it. But if mentally we're not present, that's another thing about Tantra that I learned through and being present, physically present, to understand and feel the energy flowing through your body. If we're not mentally there, then we're not going to be able to be vulnerable to even experience an orgasm. And so that in itself can cause many health issues of not being able to release that energy. As I tell people, there's two outlets of a release of energy. It's through our throat chakra and speaking and our verbal expression, which also goes along with the sound. And also in that sacral chakra, orgasm. That is life force energy. So if it's not flowing, it can cause health issues such as fibroid issues, infertility, and things of that nature.
And even for men, so because I don't want to leave them out too. So a lot of men aren't aware that orgasms and ejaculation are two separate things. You can do one without the other. So even like for women, our orgasmic energy is healthy and expressive. However, for men, because of the culture they've been taught or raised in, they're not aware that really you ejaculating a lot is losing a lot of life force. And brother Kaya, who's in Atlanta, he does excellent work with men, but he was sharing how, you know, what's happening is men who are really overactive and ejaculating a lot in their younger years, by the time they get older, they're having blood pressure issues and other issues as well, because of the amount of life force that they're not being taught to circulate. Instead of you're just depositing it in, you know, I don't know. We're not going to get into that, but yeah, you're just shooting it everywhere, like, instead of circulating it, you know? So yeah. And then on top of that, you know, speaking of deposits, because this is something that one of my male clients, you know, being more aware of, again, not only just having a heart penis connection, learning orgasms and ejaculation are two separate things, but even as a man, being mindful in the women you're sleeping with. It's not just important for women to be choosy or selective about who we're sleeping with. Where you're depositing your seed, sir, you have to be just as cautious. So yeah.
Another thing that I learned through your course that was very insightful was understanding how we hear so much about these issues of trauma affecting women and affecting our reproductive systems. And I thought it was very interesting, like when we talk about men, and that's why I think it's so important that men and women, or even couples, if there is a female watching this and sharing this with their mate, because just as we talk about, we're just now in this Me Too movement of expressing past traumas. It's a lot of men that have gone through trauma. And when you explain to me that men are physically affected by trauma early on, that can even affect the full development of their penis.
That is correct, ma'am. That is absolutely correct. So, okay, whatever we want to call the divine intelligence that makes stuff happen, right? So we know that throughout certain ages, our bodies communicate to say, hey, you know, during this growth stage, pubic hair is supposed to develop, the, you know, vagina, the breast, you know, so forth and so on. And what happens is there's a process that that contributes to a male growing his penis, right? So due to certain trauma, and even for women, so let's play both sides. So for women, we have the G-spot, right? Because I can talk about this specifically because I had drama to where I never had a G-spot orgasm until like 2 years ago, okay? So that part. And then the men. So whatever intelligence says, hey, your penis is supposed to grow, you know, this length up until this age, and then it's also based on genetics, so forth and so on. That process can get interrupted when the body experiences trauma. Okay, so just like when it, you know, when I was, sexually abused, or, I went through certain things as a child, there's a process as a woman that says, hey, listen, when you're sexually aroused, your G spot is supposed to engorge with blood and drop down so that, you could, but somewhere in my development and trauma that happened, that intelligence got interrupted to whereas it was not engorging with blood and dropping down so that when a man penetrates me, it could, rub against each other. So that process got interrupted. So there's a reprogramming that has to happen, a rewiring that has to happen to put another positive imprint in my G spot for it to engorge or function properly. So same for men. So if there was something that happened in their childhood that challenged their manhood, or that had them have a negative view on sexuality or scared of it, whatever organs and faculties are associated with that, there's going to be some hindrance. And I've had clients, again, if I'm performing a Lingam Massage for orgasmic awareness or even erectile dysfunction, I can literally feel where there's more penis that could have been, grown out. So
that's deep. So even within that whole trauma has some correlation to erectile dysfunction with men as well, along with toxins being built up. How we get fibroids, toxins build up in the male's testicle area and can also cause erectile
dysfunction. Their prostate. Yeah, that's another, especially amongst Black men. If you notice, men of color are the highest rate in prostate issues, right? And not only them just being, careful about what they eat, but at the end of the day, as a community, and I don't want to just put this on Black people, but we have been taught all about, let's be a warrior, let's be empowered, let's do that, but healing modalities. Like we're not realizing that not only trauma has been passed down to us from people we haven't even met, our ancestors, right? On top of that, what we're going through while we're in the womb, and then as we're growing up in these really important developmental stages of our childhood. And yet we're not putting into practice as much healing modalities to help us clear those imprints that's been left in our auric field. So yeah, we have to do better.
Cool. So tell us, for example, what does a tantra session entail? I mean, and even with that, so we had people that needed some work done. I know a lot of this works with the yin and yang, that you send a male to a female practitioner and and vice versa. Tell us a little bit about what occurs in a tantra session that is helping with the healing process. What does that look like?
So it depends on the issue we're dealing with, right? So for instance, if we want to say erectile dysfunction, or I don't even want to focus on sex. Let's just say this brother has mommy issues, or really he has an issue connecting with women, which has stemmed from issues with his mother, right? So a lot of times what a tantra session does, it's a ceremony for your body. It's a ceremony for your spirit, really is what it is, because what we're doing is creating this space for you to journey through your thoughts, through your body, through your mind, through your subconscious, because a lot of times we hold on to things that we're not aware that is still affecting us, and it shows up in the body. So even when I'm in a session and I'm noticing how this person is breathing or certain jerk movements, I'm able to say, oh, well, you have blockage in this area, or what memory or pain are you holding on to that you're not okay with letting go, or that you're still holding on to? So the whole experience can range from, I'm using herbs, I'm using mantra, I'm using, certain energy projection on particular meridians that run through your body. And it could be hands-on, it could be hands-off. It really depends on what the purpose of the session is.
Gotcha. So it's a combination of hands-on as well as energy work being done as
hands
well
off.
to help shift.
Yeah, because this is what I've noticed, especially, so I've worked on both men and women in different respects, right? Women are more open to receiving, right? When we come to you for healing, most of the times we're ready to really show up for it. So we're more open in receiving. For men, it's a little bit tougher because the culture that we raised our men in is you just got to be strong and tough and a warrior, and whatever pain and stuff you're going through, don't nobody care. We don't have time for you to heal from that, so forth and so on. So touch for me, I found, has been a great way to help men open up more, to receive, and then also let them know it's okay to be vulnerable, like in this space, because I know out in the world, you have to be a warrior, you got to be a provider, you got to be a leader, you got to be all this stuff. But in this space, you can return back to the inner child, because that's where really a lot of your trauma happen. In this space, you can be vulnerable. You could cry, you can scream, you can shout, you can, whatever it is you need to do to get that pain and memory out of your body. And I know for me, when I started this work, my primary concern were the men, because there's already so many things out here for women. We're yoni steaming, we're doing yoga, we have all these spaces and retreats for women, but there was not a lot of spaces for men. So I just wanted to be different, really. And I saw a need for men, and it's definitely important for men to hold space for men, but some men need nurturing that their mother never got, right? Some men need to experience that authentic sensuality that they don't receive, which is why their heart is connected from their penis. They're not even willing to be open to it, right? So this work is a space for us to practice feeling, for us to practice knowing, so that we change our paradigms and our perspectives about life in general. So like we have a lot of, and we see it all the time. Men talk about, oh, women this, women that. Women talk about men this, men that. But when we create a space where all this time you needed just a man to say, I'm here, I got you, I'm strong, make you feel safe and protected. This is what these spaces are for. Because as a woman, we have to know what it's like to feel that protection we probably never felt from our fathers. Right? So for men. So when people look at this work and think it's all about sex, I'm like, you're doing yourself a huge disservice, like really, because it's way more than that. Explosive sex is a result of all of this stuff. Explosive orgasms is a result of you healing your mind, your beliefs, your spirit, your body. Like it's a result of that. And a lot of people come into this work just wanting to jump into the orgasm. And to be honest, we've even been miseducated on what an orgasm is. It's not always in your vagina or your penis. I have orgasms all over my body. I feel orgasms in the middle of my chest. Like I could be in Barnes and Nobles and read something so profound, and I just feel like a shot go through my body. Like I appreciate being in an orgasmic state that doesn't always require me to be penetrated with a penis, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the key, because it goes back to lack of teachings that we have about sexual energy and intimacy, more or less than just sex. It's all about intimacy, that the programming starting up on what was taught to you about sex kind of puts the blocks up on the whole communication aspect. And one of the things that I really got out of the course with you as a woman is understanding, when you're working with a male with the sexual energy and helping to manipulate and move the blockages, is knowing what archetype of female presence to take with them, depending on I learned of that. Like you said, some need that mother energy. They need to be nurtured. They need to be hugged. So that whole embrace of coming behind them and cuddling them, that we sometimes put so much pressure on that man to be that provider, but not understanding that sometimes they just need to be held. And that in itself can cause a disconnect in sexual energy because of what their needs are, but not being communicated. Tell a little bit about how we have to encompass that. And it goes both ways for the male to understand what the female is needing, but those archetypes.
Yeah. So, okay. Archetypes are, again, just these personified explanations of the energy both men and women carry. So we both know men and women both have masculine and feminine energy. However, our roles in society come with certain things that are needed for us to complement each other. So going back to what you said, when you have a brother who, like, let's just say, has been grown up around a lot of violence, or he's just more of this warrior archetype, right? Meaning that his main purpose is to protect. And there is a balanced version of warrior and an unbalanced version of warriors, which we can see in our games and, you know, stuff like that. They're just unbalanced warriors. So if we have this man who's in this warrior archetype all the time, and we expect him to all of a sudden be loving and sensual and seductive, no, ma'am. No, you just can't flip it like that. There's a part that you play that helps him go into that role, which is what we call the queen mother or the moon energy, which is very nurturing. So a lot of men can tell you, if when they're out all day busting their ass and all this other stuff, they want to come home and be nurtured. Okay, so that, and a lot of times us as women, like my nurturing faculty was weaker than my sensual sexual faculty, clearly. Like, we'll get into that later. So I had to work on my moon energy and understanding the importance of nurturing the warrior so that he can get up another day and be proud of who and what he's defending and protecting. So going back, so even with the lotus, right? So this is the part archetype. Well, excuse me, before I even go into that. So again, when I talk about warrior energy with man, we understand that's, you know, protection and everything. But even as a woman, I still have a warrior energy. And I have to utilize that warrior energy to protect my moon. Because guess what? A lot of women are over nurturers. We also know a lot of women, we attract these men that need nurturing and we forget to nurture ourselves. So there has to be, you know, some protection, a boundary that we are practicing in conjunction with that moon, because we can all attest to we've poured into certain people so much we feel drained. So a part of these energies are learning how they work together. So that's just one example. If you wanted me to go into like another one, I don't know, we could do that.
Well, I think that gives a good out, because I don't want to give them too much, because that's the whole point of coming through your course and everything. But that gives a good idea, because I want people to really understand what all goes into what Tantra is and the benefit of learning about this to know how to communicate with your partners. And it was so much with communication that blocks intimacy, even from the aspect of explaining for many women that even men don't know. Tell them how many ways there are to have an orgasm.
Right. Oh, honey, over 9. Okay.
9 different ways. And that's something many of us have only experienced 2 types of orgasm. Right. So that whole knowledge, that is a whole nother level of bliss that we are not even reaching because of these blockages due to society, whether it's the stress from the world and whether it's providing for your family, or that imbalance of being that nurturer and being the protector, that you cannot get into the sensual side to even experience, or even with the males, even knowing that there are other levels to orgasms.
And here's the thing, it's knowing what to do with the orgasm. Okay, since I've started this life, I don't have orgasms just to have orgasms. I mean, sometimes we'll have our moments of that animalistic, right? But knowing what to do with those orgasms. So like, even when I teach about genital reflexology, or how energy circulates in the body and you can direct that energy to specific organs, right? So this is more than just sending this orgasmic energy to the clitoris or, you know, to the penis, wherever the men feel that energy in their body, but sending it to your liver, sending it to your heart space, sending it to your reproductive, like your uterus or your prostate. Or so when you talked about knowing how to move energy, we have to learn within each other how to do that as well. I don't care if you're a practitioner or if you just want to learn for your personal use in your relationship. But, you know, we have not been fully taught the capability of our bodies and how, if we're going to be out here having sex, allow that to contribute to your spiritual enlightenment as well as your healing. So,
Right.
especially for women, we have so many levels of orgasms that, you know, but yeah, we'll get into that. Like I won't get into it. But
Well, good. Well, I want to say, if there's anybody that is viewing, if you have any questions, you can type it into the comment box. And, you know, while we have Riziki on the line, because I know we brought up a lot of information that you may not have been aware of or want to know more about. So if you have any particular questions, please post them in the comment box so that we can get a response to you. So
in
go ahead.
there though. No, I was saying, I see a comment. One sister said, very true, because my husband still have trauma from things he had been taught as a young man. He has trouble meaning intimate even after 26 years of marriage. So this sister is not the only one going through what she's going through. And, you know, I love our ancestors and everything that they've been through in the generations before us, but we have to realize that just because we were passed along information from them doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it healthy. Understanding that a lot of what was passed down to us came as a result of certain traumas as a people we went through. So there's a lot of re-education that has to happen. And then again, this fear of healing, because it does require you to be vulnerable. It does require you to have radical honesty with yourself and face your shadows. So while people like to paint this picture that Tantra is all like, oh yes, you know, and no, there's crying, there's work, there's work, there's screaming, there's anger, there's all of that stuff. But the end result is the bliss. Absolutely.
And I think that is so key, of realizing what we hold on to. Often we talk about shedding the layers and not even understanding where we have repressed a lot of things in different parts of our body, particularly our sexual organs. The sacral chakra is about being honest with our emotions and our right to have feelings and expressing our sexual identity, our sexual pleasure. And so with that, what I think is interesting is what you had said in the class, that the imprints, and I'm going to speak from the female perspective, the imprints that our womb, our vagina holds from sexual encounters. And I know in the past, I did a podcast interview with a lady who talked about what yoni massages were and the benefits of what a yoni massage. So a lot of times people just think, oh, you know, that's some foreplay. But I don't think people understand how important the muscle of the vagina, just like we don't even realize often we're holding stress in our shoulders, that we sit tense. So if you have negative imprints, it's being held in the muscle of the entry of the vagina. So that whole aspect of trauma upon entry is going to block you from even having that orgasmic bliss, because once the penis goes in, it's programmed up. Cheating, I don't trust, infidelity, however, that causes that muscle to tense up. Can you go a little more as far as the benefits on what some people can experience by having what they call the yoni massages?
Yeah, okay, so or I do yoni ceremonies. Like I said, when I do Tantra, it's literally like a ceremony for you. But so the yoni massage, and I really like to use the word adwode, which is womb, because for yoni, it does focus on, you know, the vagina, but we forget our breasts. Okay, so a lot of yoni massage techniques do not focus on the breast, which we really also should, because this is a very important center. But yes, going back to the imprint. So like you said, when certain things happen, our body, again, just science, these neurotransmitters and messages, you know, are sent to the brain. And even though when we're in the act of sexuality or sex, even though we may not be physically thinking about that rape or that molestation or that cheating, the subconscious remembers, the body remembers. And so even though, and a lot of women who are non-orgasmic today, they can sit there and be like, oh my God, can I please orgasm? Just, they try to think themselves into the orgasm, but it doesn't work. Why? Because you haven't released that imprint out of your body. You haven't reprogrammed that imprint in your body. So our bodies are very intelligent. It has its own intelligence. It literally carries messages everywhere. So just like they say, being mindful of how we talk to ourselves, because these dendrites, these neurotransmitters are listening. When we go through certain things, those neurotransmitters, those dendrites, they remember. So Tantra is the practice of creating beautiful, creating beautiful imprints. Practicing Tantra allows us to create beautiful imprints so that we can just, leave that all in the past where it needs to stay.
Right. Mm-hmm. So we talked about the Yoni massages. Tell a little bit about the Lingam massages.
Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you. So that's where I was going. Yes, Yoni. Oh, and last thing about Yoni massage. Yoni massage allows the woman to connect her Yoni with her heart. Okay. Because a lot of times, again, due to trauma, we had to disconnect, go to another space. Sometimes in a lot of marriages right now, women are allowing their husbands to climb on top of them, and they're just like, okay, can we get it up? And that's a disconnect, So Yoni massage allows you to bring this all back together. Now, Lingam massage. So there's a couple of things with Lingam massage. My practice, I really utilize Lingam massage as a way to help activate a man's solar plexus, because that deals with the will, it deals with the confidence. A lot of men that I get doing that Lingam massage to help activate that solar plexus area really deals with that activating of the warrior, and again, just showing up as what we women need in society. It also allows a man to gain orgasmic awareness and practice the art of ejaculation. Okay, so understanding that every time you have sex with a woman, you don't have to ejaculate to feel satisfied, because a lot of times y'all end up going to sleep. That's what really happens. Mm-hmm. What you would want is to have an awesome round of sex and still feel energized and powered up. And then also with semen retention, when you're learning this, it's going back into your brain. So all of the proteins and the nutrients and all the great vitamins and stuff that are in semen, instead of it shooting out of you, you're sending it back up into the body. So a Lingam massage allows you the opportunity to practice that, especially for brothers who may have issues with pre-ejaculation. So we're practicing on, okay, you feel like you're about to ejaculate, okay, do some breathing exercises to calm it back down. And every time we go through a round, you're prolonging your ejaculation, even with prostate health. That's different from Lingam massage, but some Lingam massages, I will include prostate milking to help men release the toxins that are kept in their prostate. So
beautiful.
Yeah, it's a lot. Well, and connect your lingam with their heart too. Let's not forget about that.
Right. Because most men just think about sex and not coming from the heart center aspect of things.
And if it was, if men connected from a heart center space, we wouldn't hear about, oh man, I don't like my baby mama. We wouldn't hear a lot about that, because you're having sex from a space of spiritual connection, and like you really understand why you're choosing to engage with this woman. So we have to, gotta do better.
And I had a mentor of mine that told me as a female that if a male always wants to have sex from behind, or not having heart to heart, or meaning face to face, that they either don't have a heart connection to you, or is more just a sexual thing because of the positioning. Because when you are engaging in intercourse heart to heart, whether it's missionary or other form, we understand that cosmic flow of energy. Not to say that you can never have sex from behind, but just in general, there are some men,
okay.
some men that's the only position that they may choose to do. That is a sign there that may be a disconnect.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. So just like you talked about the archetypes, there are what I call alternate personas, or even if you get the book Hands of Light, it's called character structures. And these are all defense mechanisms that we built that plays a part into our sexuality. So what you described is what is called rigid, right? So that means that it's very surface level. You're just in it for the nut, and you really don't want a connection at all. Because like you said, when you're face like this, that means you're looking into each other's eyes. You may have to kiss, and that heart to heart energy. And so a lot of times, a lot of people, not just men, because women, we do it too in a way, we don't want to connect. So we're just going to have sex in a way where it's just physical. We're not going to exchange energy through the eyes, through the mouth, through a heart, or anything like that. So yeah, and there's other, personality structures that contribute to how we show up in our relationships. But again, that's another
class. Yeah. There's a question. Can you expand a little bit on what prostate milking is?
Absolutely. Okay. So the prostate is part of the seminal fluid it produces the seminal fluid for the sperm that, comes out of the penis when he ejaculates. So what happens is a lot of men, the concept of prostate cancer is happening a lot because a lot of men are not taking care of their prostate. A lot of backed up semen is in their prostate, and it engorges, it swells, which contributes to erectile dysfunction, because as it engorges, it's squeezing, other areas to where the energy can't flow. So prostate milking is a process that a lot of men hate to hear about, even though they'll go to a doctor's office and have some random person they never met before penetrate their anus with their finger and just do a little check to see if it's swollen. Okay, and that's it. Whereas prostate milking is a preventative measure, and also if you catch the swelling early enough, it can really help prevent any progression of any prostate issues. So the prostate milking process is a process where you are stimulating the penis and at the same time milking, like, I don't want to show the process, but you're helping get rid of backed up semen and any toxins that may be held into the prostate. So, and especially amongst men of color, they automatically associate that with being gay, even though I'm a woman. But at the end of the day, it's either you're going to a doctor who has to do this anyway, or a tantra practitioner that not only is going to make sure that it's pleasurable, but it's also healthy in a holistic way. It's not just us focusing on your prostate, it's a holistic event. There's men, I was in Ghana and I did a prostate milking, and no lie, the guy said, like, he had what he would call an outer body experience. And this is in the village, right? This is in the village. And when we were done, he said he really feels like he returned from a great war. Like, that's the feeling that he, had after coming out of it. So I was like, he didn't feel gay. It's very manly over there. So there was nothing homosexual about what occurred. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Cool. Well, I think that's good, because that's that whole stereotype of programming, that we get from that, and so it becomes taboo. And I've always come to realize now, all the things that was told to us that are taboo is really the things that we need to do our research on and engage in. There's a reason why they are keeping that information from us or putting a negative concept to it to avoid us from becoming more enlightened. Exactly. So with all the information that you've given them, Riziki, tell them a little bit about the classes. You got a retreat coming up this year and some different classes and workshops. So give a rundown of the different classes and programs that you have coming up.
Sure. So January 25th in Charlotte will be Awakening the Lotus and the Healer. So that is the 2 of the total 8 archetypes that I work with. So that'll definitely be in Charlotte, North Carolina. Another awesome event in Charlotte, North Carolina is Black Tantra Group. I am the one of the co-founders of Black Tantra Group. We were in Charlotte last year as for a day workshop, and then this year we will have a weekend retreat. We'll also be having the lovely Asha Sims to help us with some body movement. So definitely, if you are in the East Coast, make your way to the Black Tantra retreat, and it's called Relationship Live. It's so impactful. In April, I will be teaching my SESA tantric system. I will be having a certification class, and that registration will open January 15th. And yeah, that's pretty much what I have right now. So just stay tuned, y'all. It's a bunch of stuff going on.
Yes. So please go. I have her website listed here so that you can get further information about her classes and workshops. She works with individuals if you feel you need a consultation and further one-on-one with her. She also works with couples as well on helping increasing the communication and intimacy with couples. She does Yoni Steams, and with her travels to Africa, she's bringing back some wonderful herbs to help with different ailments, from helping with herpes, sexual transmitted, reproductive issues, erectile dysfunction, all of that. We got, yes.
Can I say this too? And thank you for bringing that up, because and I'm also noticing some of the comments in the chat, so I want to address those too. Tantra, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't even like using that word anymore, Tantra, because it does not explain the totality of everything that life is, that we are, right? Okay. This work has also helped me expand in my career. And so it's not just about orgasms. It's about activating parts of yourself that will, again, make you a better member in society and get on your path. Because even you, Asha, you've talked about this, where people who are not living to their full potential, this is why you're getting sick. People who are living from fear and scared to expand, you get sick, you encounter challenges, because you don't want to pursue the abundance that's waiting for you. And no lie, last year was just a bunch of things I manifested, and it was like, wow, I can't believe this myself. But guess what? Do this work, I'm opening myself up. I'm being exposed to the abundance of who I am and things that can activate in me at will, so I can accomplish creating a business overseas, taking international trips, and I don't have to pay for them, walking into opportunities and they're just like here, so it's very, this work also helps your manifestation as well. So I just wanted to add that. Sorry.
No, that's needed. So I thank you so much for this information that you have provided us with. I think this is very informative. I think it gives everybody a whole different understanding. And that was the whole point, because we get so caught up in a commercialization of different things that we don't understand the true underlying meaning, particularly the sacredness of these topics when it comes to sexual health and relationship. And that's what I am really seeing, why this is so important, because we're seeing a breakdown in the family unit in our communities. And regardless of what we think, a lot of that breakdown comes from a breakdown in intimacy and communication about our sexual relationships. That is what brought us together. So if we don't keep that, and then a lot of things, and even in one of the things I'm going to be teaching in Puerto Rico with the couples retreat is what is transcending sex. This is having sexual intercourse beyond the physical, just as procreation, but on a spiritual aspect to enlighten yourself. And so I think this is where the reprogramming is, as we step into ourselves, our true selves, our spiritual energy, and understanding the beautiful outcomes of of how sex can help us to manifest. I always say that just as quickly and beautifully and miraculously as an orgasm can create life, whatever that spark, when the sperm and the egg come together and you are miraculously born. As our mentor, our OG mentor, OG Kelly Shaman said in that meditation, imagine that nut, your parents' nut, that when you came into existence. And at that point, a miracle, if it would have, that sperm would have impregnated another egg, we would have been a whole different person and being. So just as well as the orgasm can create life, it can bring forth prosperity, health, abundance. So I often say, if your sex life ain't right, your money may not be right either. It all is part of that same energy and understanding your value of what your worth is and the sacredness of it. So I thank you for the work that you're doing, because it's a calling. And that's one of the things with this work. Everybody, people say, as a clinician, how can you stand up in front of 300 people and do a workshop and talk about orgasms? So I'm like, why can't we talk about it?
Right.
This is how we got here. Why is it taboo? It's scientific knowledge of the benefits from it. So I thank you for stepping into your calling. And teaching others on this, so that we can improve our health, we can improve our relationships within our families overall by doing something that's pleasurable, but making sure that we have the sacredness in it. So I thank you for your time today. And again, please reach out, everybody, for Riziki on Facebook if you want to reach her there, Riziki L on Facebook. And she can further give you more questions about her workshops and everything that's coming up. So thank you, Roger. I love you.
Love you too. Thank you so much.
To everyone. Thank you very much. See y'all in a couple of weeks. The next topic is going to be I'm going to have an episode about sickle cell. This is something that's causing a lot of concern in the Black community, and modalities used to help and treat it. So join us for the next episode the week after next. And I thank you, and I'm pretty sure I'll have you on again, Riziki.
Yes, sis. I look forward to it. Peace, fam. Thank you.
All right, peace and blessings.
Peace.